be here. And as I've spoken with Lois and Arden over the last several days, there's so much upheaval in the world, and it especially becomes potent, and we feel it at times like this when everything about death and grief says we need to be surrounded by people and by family, and it's so hard at this time when we're really trying to stay safe and stay home and stay distant. So I'm glad that those of us that can gather, and I'm glad that we can have something to send to other folks who aren't here, and that we pray that in the not too distant future that there will be a time when we can be together. We can be together and we can celebrate Myra's life and have more of family and friends and extended with us. So we begin our period of mourning with a ritual of Kriya, and that is to rip, to tear. And traditionally we ripped our clothes, and it was this outward manifestation of our inward grief. Today we have these ribbons that we get to put on and rip. Traditionally, it is for the closest of the family. I have a very expansive definition of family and those that are involved in this process of mourning and grief. So anyone who's comfortable, I invite you to take a clear ribbon. So we'll put it over the side of our coat or sweater or whatever that you have. And in a moment, if you're able, I'll ask you to rise and we'll say the blessing, and then we'll tear it from the bottom up. And what I like to say is it represents that tear in our hearts and on the inside. Yet we can sew it back. We can sew it back up and make it a whole cloth again, but we'll always notice, even if we sewed it, we'll notice that difference, and we'll notice that tear and that separation, just like our hearts, is that we go on, we walk into life, that's our job, but there's always that little piece missing that we will remember, and that's part of our responsibility too.
Nicole, will you turn me? Oh, the pin's out. Be careful. Just tear it, and then I'll pin it.
Oh. So if you're able, if you want to rise, you just repeat after me. Baruch,
Baruch,
Dayan,
Dayan,
Ha'amet.
Ha'amet.
Blessed be the God of truth, and then you rip the cloth.
Yeah, you can just stick the pin through it. You don't have to fasten it. Thanks.
Oh, did it come out?
That's good. Thank you.
In the warmth of summer, in the chill of winter, yearn to share. We remember her. For as long as we live, she too shall live. For she is now a part of us as we remember her. Mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex and too magnificent to be memorialized in pain. The gifts of spirit our loved ones gave us cannot be measured or weighed, nor can they be lost or even tarnished by time. Even in our dark hours, we know that some of their light and their warmth will always be with us, bringing comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, healing and peace. We begin our service with the recitation of poetry and psalms and prayers, thus linking Myra's life with the millennial-old tradition of the people Israel and the eternity of God. Kohelet Ecclesiastes wrote, "Your eyes never has its fill of seeing. Young or old, those who depart this life never see enough of the world, never complete their task, never cherish their loved ones enough before they're called home. How they yearn for yet another respite from their final summons. How we yearn to have them close to us for yet another challenge in our lives, yet another joy, yet another precious moment together. God be now with those whose hearts are broken, because whenever parting comes, it comes too soon. Console them at this moment. Be near to them when light seems distant. Sustain them, O God, until the time of healing." The rabbis taught that there are three crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, the crown of royalty. But they emphasize the crown of a good name excels them all. As it says, Tov Shem, B'Shemen Tov, a good name is to be treasured above precious oil. Wealth, health, even life passes away, but a good name lives forever. It is this view that the Talmud teaches monuments need not be erected for the righteous, their deeds are their memorials. They will be remembered and revered for the kindness they have shown, for the love they have given. They are shining examples of what it means to be a true mensch. For centuries, one psalm has stood out and brought comfort to those who are filled with sorrow, and that is Psalm 23, because it abounds with assurance of God's protection and guidance. It begins with an affirmation of faith, and it ends with an expression of hope for eternity. Therefore, it holds this high place in our hearts, as it describes the needs of our lives so well. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai Roi Lo Echsar. Adonai Roi Lo Echsar. Adonai Roi Lo Echsar. Ino Dashe Yaritzeni. Amei Menukot. Amei Menukot. Opportunity to bring Myra's memory to our minds. intentions. With the death of a loved one, we lose the opportunity to see them again, to hear their voice, to touch their physical presence. We lose the security that their mere existence gives us, the opportunity to affect that relationship, to make that relationship change, grow, or deepen. Those who remember Myra are faced with the tasks of accepting these losses and grieving them. Grief we are taught is for the living. It is for that reason that we're gathered here to hold each other up, to share memories, to lend our presence, so we can learn to live in a world in which Myra is missing, and to be able to give the love that we once gave of her to each other. We're gathered to both mourn the passing and yet also remember and celebrate the life of Myra Ruth Enkelis. We try to understand the lesson this death teaches. That lesson is quite clear. To make life deeper, to make life more significant, more meaningful, more decent. That is what Myra lived and what she would want from us. And although her health had become compromised, her sudden loss leaves a hole which is hard to fill. Putting the pieces back together starts with the funeral. Our liturgy won't bring Myra back, but it does provide a link to our tradition and history. It gives us something to lean on. Myra would have wanted us to do this. Earlier, I had the opportunity to speak with some of Myra's family who shared some memories. Lois actually spoke about the importance